Alrighty, welcome back. Here, let's get this going. Get right into it. Alright. And all this happening in the scarlet rays of the sunset. And there he is, waving his hand and screaming, "Attack!" as roaring soldiers with red neckerchiefs converge into the battle against some ghost enemy. But Olga have shown up and started to talk instead of Genda. Seems everybody is here. Great. I was so tired today that I couldn't even think about anything, so I ended up just listening to the camp leader. Now, today we'll go hiking. It is essential for every pioneer to be able to come and rescue his comrade, to offer a helping hand in the hour of need, just saving him in the hopeless situation. We'll have to learn to do all these things together. A whisper ran through the pioneer crowd, suggested that probably this truly epic expedition would end on a clearing in the forest, several hundred feet away from the square. Somehow I thought so too. We'll walk in pairs, so if you haven't chosen a partner for yourself yet, it's the right time to do so. Pioneers quickly caught the idea and started to match pairs. It looked like I was the only one without a pair. Slavia enthusiastically discussing something with Olga. Lena was with Miku. Aw, sad day. Electronic, of course, was Shurek. Not a sad day. Well, it might be not a bad idea to go alone after all. Semyon, the voice of the camp leader, pulled me out of my thoughts. I came up to her with reluctance. I see that you haven't found a pair. Seems like it. And you'll join Xenia. She is alone too. Ugh. I was struck with that special kind of despair that only a truly loner can experience. So, it appears that I am the same castaway as the Yeti librarian that I won't risk spending a couple of hours with, even if I was paid for it. Although, we seem to be in the same boat now. I slowly approached Xenia. Well, I guess we'll be going together. She looked up at me. Don't you even think that I'm glad, said Xenia seriously. Why on earth should you feel glad? I asked naively. Never mind. It would be much better if you just shut up. Hey, it couldn't get better than this. She turned her back on me and followed the other pioneers. I haven't seen any hidden reason to walk in pairs. Anyway, we were walking on the trodden forest trails, and it was quite difficult to get lost here, even if I'd wanted to. Moreover, while we were already hiking for half an hour, we weren't rushing into the depths of the forest, trying to face all the dangers that could test our courage and harden our pioneer spirits, but instead we were just walking around in circles. However, if we'll take into account that Olga was our chief, this hike could be compared to a hobbit's march from Shire to Mordor. Just as Xenia insisted, I was following her at a distance in silence. The librarian seemed to be perfectly okay with it. Hey, don't you know when we'll reach our destination? Our what? Ahem. That place where we'll settle down and set up camp. The whole idea of this hike is not setting up a camp, but hiking itself. You don't get it. Yeah, it seemed that I didn't understand a thing about hikes. I guess you're right, but still, I don't know. She replied sharply and hastened her pace. I caught up with her and asked, Listen, and why are you always so, I was about to say mean, but stopped short. I haven't done anything bad to you, and I'm not going to. The dog's barking. Whoa, snap. She glared at me in surprise. I'm gonna shut the door. Shut up, you. Anyways, always so what? Well, unsociable, kind of. Or is it something about me? Oh, cut that stupidity already. As you wish. I decided not to start a conversation with her until the end of the hike. ... At least Olga, something or another, decided to end this Sisyphean toil. It's time for a halt. The place chosen turned out to be quite a large glade, with a few tree trunks laid in half circle to make an improvised arbor, with burned ground and remains of a campfire in the middle. Obviously, Such hikes is a tradition of this camp. I was sent to gather firewood together with other boys. It didn't take a lot of time because there were a lot of branches and trunks of various sizes around. In the end, Olga had lit up a fire using some old newspapers. I was eager to know what was written there, but couldn't discern anything but Soviet symbolics. Pioneers took their places on the trunks and started to talk about their things. It seems that the final goal of this event was achieved. The only things missing were a pot of fish soup, aluminum cups with vodka, and a guitar. But I wouldn't be surprised if all of this would appear here somehow. What are you thinking about? Slavia sat next to me. Oh, nothing special. Just enjoying the hike, I answered sarcastically. You don't look too happy. Well, I'm not ready to rejoice in jumping. Sorry about that. Okay, I won't disturb you. She was sitting with me for a while, but after realizing that I wasn't in the mood of talking, left me to enjoy my introspection all alone. And all I wished for was to lie down in bed and fall asleep as soon as possible, but I was being filled with smoke and useless chatter of pioneers around me instead. They were cheering and laughing, and were enjoying this warm summer evening in general. In the far side of the glade, I noticed Lena, who was arguing with Alissa intensively, and Lena seemed to be like complete opposites to me. Slavia has left somewhere after our conversation, it seems. Electronic and Shirk were trying to prove something to Olga furiously. Looks like I'm the only one who doesn't belong to this place. I will find out what they're doing. Only Lena and Alissa stood out from all this splendor. Well, of course, it was quite natural for Alissa to be arguing with someone like that, but hearing Lena talk in a raised voice, I came closer silently, trying to understand what is going on. No, you listen to me. Think whatever you want, I've said everything. It looks serious. I tried as hard as I could not to attract any attention, and looking like I'm just standing there with no intention of listening to them. There's nothing to think about. Everything is clear as day. Do not try to wind me around your little finger like that. I know you all too well. Why, of course, you know everything. Then why don't you tell him yourself? Lena was getting angry. That alone was really weird, even considering me not knowing the point of their argument. That's none of your business. Alissa snorted, turned around, and met eyes with me. A second later, Lena gave me a look as well. Girls were standing there in confusion for some time. You're eavesdropping. Me? Oh, no. I was just, passing by. I put on the best smile I had, but it didn't seem to help much. By the way, today he was peeping at me. Alissa gave out a malicious smile. Lena looked at me questioningly. First of all, why would she believe this fox's tale? I didn't peep. You know quite well that it was an accident. Uliana should be the one to blame. Sure it was. Tell that to the Marines. It seems like my excuse was not working. Did you like my boobs? Shivers went through my spine. Is that true? Lena looked at me imploringly. Well, you see, it was an accident. I haven't seen anything there. You haven't? Well, I can repeat. Alissa cried in anger. Didn't know what to say. You see, I told you. No. Lena started to mumble and rushed away a moment later. Wait, what happened? I shouted after her. You see what you did? Girl is frustrated now. She gave out a spiteful smile. First of all, it wasn't me who frustrated her. Second, I don't have any idea of what you two were arguing about. I was running out of patience. Why should I tell you? It seems like she thought that our talk was over and was about to leave. I gripped her hand abruptly. Alissa glanced at me in fear but didn't say anything. I was angry at that moment, really angry. First, I was wildly enraged that Lena was upset because of me, even though I was guilty by implication. Second, I was enraged by Alissa's insolence. Third, I was so tired that I could have gotten out of myself because of any trifle. Happy now? I hissed, pointing in the darkness where Lena ran off to. You only seemed to have guts to explode the memorials and offend innocent girls. She looked frightened, saddened, and confused at the same time. She herself could offend anyone. You just don't know her. The only truth here is that I don't know her too well, but I'm absolutely positive that she can't offend anyone. That's your job. We stood in silence for some time. I held Alissa's hand and didn't know what to do next. The solution drawn upon me all by itself. You should go and apologize. Why the heck would I? Alissa tried to act as puffed up as always, but it just wasn't going to work, because I said so. I refused to take any objections and dragged her to the side of the bonfire. Olga, I'm sorry, we have some urgent business to do, so we'll have to leave early. The counselor tried to object, but I didn't listen, and headed for Lena holding Alissa with me. Sometime after, I released her hand. Objections? All the pride and arrogance had left Alissa's face long ago. If you want me to come with you, I will, but I have nothing to apologize for. I told her the truth. We'll see it then. I cut her short. We had been walking in silence until we entered the camp. We came to the square and I asked Alissa, where do we go next? How do I know? And who said that knows Lena well? I did. Alissa hesitated. Well, she could be at the island. She often goes there when she wants to be alone. Excellent. We headed to the boat station. The night came down upon the camp while I've been searching for paddles and pottering with ropes. One boat was actually missing. Okay, today is your lucky day to do several killer exercises for building up your biceps, triceps, and other arm muscles, I said sarcastically. Are you serious? Alissa cast a fearful glance at me. Well, perhaps that was a little too rough, even for her. All right, I won't make you row, of course. That hardly sounded confident. Swinging the paddles appeared to be much harder this time. Well, that's not a surprise, considering today I must have used up my annual rowing quota. I've stopped in the middle of the river to get some breath. The camp was covered by night. Trivial and ordinary night. It was one of those nights when dark sky, star, and crescent moon don't make you feel anything special, and chirring crickets and twitting birds sound like they are doing a dull routine job, rather than performing an otherwise exciting nocturne. I was staring into the darkness, trying to make out the shaded island. How did you get to know her? Alissa shivered a little. We grew up together, she answered slowly after some hesitation, and ended up in the same pioneer camp. What a fabulous coincidence. All these questions, mysteries, and fears that were so well hidden so far suddenly spawned in my head. Damn, I could just throw her out of the boat and drown her right here and now. I can demand answers, although it could be dangerous unless I'm sure that I know what I'm doing. But still I thought that this time I was playing with white pieces, and thus I could make the first move and not only parry the blows of the opponent. So what kind of camp is this? Alissa stared at me blankly. Where are we? Why am I here? She kept silent. Answer me, I shouted. Hey, what's wrong with you? If you want me to apologize to Lena, I will. That's where I realized how stupid I acted, to say the least. She could simply be uninvolved in all that stuff. And what's more, one can't lie that plausibly. Alissa's fearful glance was yet another reason to believe her. Sorry. That was all I was able to say at the moment, yet I wanted to keep my advantage. The last meters were really tough. Exhausted, I got out of the boat and lay on the cold ground. Alissa was standing nearby staring at me. I bet she's about to gibe or utter some barbed wit, yet since she remained silent I assumed she's still shocked or something. Even though it was rather dark here, it would be easier to hide in my old flat than at this tiny island. Furthermore, Lena must have already heard us as we were crossing the river, so by now it's already too late to ask Alissa any more questions, even though I had some. Listen, I looked at her, but saw nothing. That was a dark night, and I didn't have cat's eyes. Well, when we find Lena, I'm going to tell her you never wanted to hurt her feelings, and everything that happened in the morning was nothing but a misunderstanding, okay? My voice sounded not that confident as it did a couple minutes ago, yet confident enough. Although Alissa said nothing, it was clear by the look of her face that she agreed. I stood up and we were off to find Lena. Her boat was tied to a snag at the far end of the island. That's very clever of her. One will not see the boat from afar. I mumbled. Well, that means she's somewhere in the trees. Let's find her. I headed to the grove, yet Alissa stood still. What's up? I thought we've discussed everything already. It's not the case. It's just that it's dark in there. I had to narrow my lids to make out her face. The grove is smaller than my grandmother's daisy garden. What is there to be afraid of? Alissa didn't answer. If you care to know what I'm thinking, I would just gladly leave you here. Never know what trick you are up to. Well, she came very close to me. Let's go like that. She took my hand. I wasn't expecting such an outcome. My cheeks turned red and hot. My breath was taken away and I could barely say anything. The whole situation didn't favor a conversation, and it's probably for the best, since I doubt I would be able to say anything smart. Slowly we headed to the grove. In a couple of minutes I regained some control of myself. Come on, there is really nothing to be afraid of. We've been here during the day, gathering some strawberries. No big deal, just a usual birch grove. It's really nice here during the day, I added after a short pause. Alissa didn't look at me. She was staring somewhere into the distance. Well, it's up to you after all. In several minutes she pointed somewhere in front of us. There she is. I peered into darkness, but could barely see anything. When we came closer, we saw Lena sitting beside a tree. She was crying. Why have you come here? She asked weepingly. And you? She looked at Alissa, but didn't finish the phrase. That moment Alissa released my hand. Well, you see, I simply wanted to apologize for being somewhat harsh and rude. Alissa interrupted me. Her voice has regained that usual arrogance of hers. Maybe it's because she didn't want to look weak in front of Lena. What a perfect apology. Not walking the talk, are you? How clever of you to insist that I'm doing a bad thing and then do the same thing yourself. Lena switched to shouting uncontrollably. You got it all wrong. I only got what I've seen. You see, girls, you are arguing again, and I seem to be somehow involved in all that, yet I cannot understand a thing. Explain it to him, Lena said to Alissa with a grin. There is nothing to explain. Well, maybe you will let me have a try then. Whatever. She crossed her arms on her chest and turned away. Well then, Semyon, she blamed me for running after you. For a minute there was a complete silence. Lena didn't look like making more explanations, and as for me, I stood trying to make scattered pieces of a puzzle become a whole. What do you mean? Just what I said. It's not like that. It's not what I meant. Interrupted Alissa. Of course. You've always been like this. Lena burst into tears again. Wait, how come? So, Lena likes me. And you, what about you? You're trying to convince me it's all wrong while holding his hand. What? So Alissa likes me too? Oh, come on. Alissa actually likes someone. This can't be happening. I can have you both. Just saying. It's just, it was dark over here and that's so much like you. Ever so arrogant. Always trying to control the others. But when it comes to yourself. Alissa didn't answer. I really felt like I had to say something to diffuse the situation. Hey, wait. Perhaps we just got it all wrong. That has nothing to do with you. Alissa's voice was oddly estranged. Judging by the conversation, it's exactly about me. Yes, it is. Ask, what does she think of you, and why she told me not to run after you. I don't think Lena was actually running after me. I'm telling you once again, we heard enough of your story already. Lena shot up and ran away into the darkness. I stood nailed to the spot, not sure what to do next. If I follow Lena now, what would I say when I find her? After all, I don't even understand what this is all about. My dumbness and silly consolation attempts would only upset her more. Guess we'd better let her stay on her own for some time. That didn't sound very confident. Whatever. Without any further sound, Alissa headed for the boat. ... The whole way across the river to the boat station, was hell of a ride. I had to stop every 10-20 meters to take a break. Alissa was staring at the river and didn't pay attention to me. Well, that seems to be the first situation here in the camp that is completely beyond my comprehension. Not to say that ultimately it is just a trivial everyday situation. I wasn't that confused even during the all-night expedition to the old camp. After all, if we have a closer look, there isn't anything, something or another. I pressed her spacebar too quick. Lena is a very shy and perhaps even enclosed person. Yet she's human and can't completely avoid surrounding developments. Considering that, her reaction fits into the situation quite well. Even if I don't get the source of the quarrel, it's clear as day that girls would not behave like that if they hadn't had a valid reason. And as the things were standing, I was that reason. That is exactly the most strange part of the situation. Hey, I'm sorry it went that way. Only if I wouldn't have overheard your conversation. Seems like I got a pathological need to excuse myself. That is not your fault at all, she said absent-minded. It's just that you appeared in the right place at the right time and started a mechanism that stood still for a long time. Don't quite get it. Of course you don't. And actually shouldn't right now. You'll get it later. She cast an intense glance at me. Damn it. Why does it always happen to me? Both at school and college, trouble seemed to have chosen me as their primary target. Someone blocked my classroom's door with a mop. I got a written reproof in my mark book. There was a fight, all things considered. Must have been the instigator. Failed an exam. Well, of course, that's my fault, and the teacher who hates me has nothing to do with it. Even my parents ever seemed to prefer blaming me than a set of unfavorable circumstances, third parties involved, or decree of providence. At some point, I even started to believe that I somehow do attract troubles. Remember Murphy's Law? In my case, it was like if something nasty is going to happen, it's going to happen to me. For that reason, I always tried to stay out of any trouble, or I could become a whipping boy. Well, judging by this day, I'm not really good at it. It seems like you've got an aura of some sort. You do attract attention. Surprised, I looked at Alissa. She was smiling. Looks like she can read my mind. Troubles, mostly. Who knows, who knows? She said dreamy and stared at the river. What a wonderful night, isn't it? Just like the other ones, if you ask me. I felt used up. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Just an ordinary night, nothing special. Best moments to make our most admirable camp leader really happy. She has to know that her most favorite pioneer is a nasty pervert who enjoys peeking at naked girls. Something cracked inside of me again. You aren't serious, are you? Why? Of course I'm serious. She didn't look like she's joking at all. Well, suit yourself. But don't you think it's not the best time to do that now? Aren't you supposed to row? I realized that our boat was still drifting amidst the river. Wait. Do not escape my question. Let's get back to the camp. I'll have a moment to think it over. Spending the whole night in a boat wasn't something I would strive to, so I had to apply myself to the paddles. We barely made it to the boat station. I was exhausted, both because of the rowing and Alissa's intention to tell Olga about the morning incident. As far as I know our camp leader, her reaction was quite predictable. So you're actually going to visit Olga now, aren't you? Why not? She gave me the most roguish smile. It's night, after all. She must be sleeping already. Who knows? She may as well be awake. Come on. You do understand it was a coincidence, a mere misunderstanding triggered by Uliana. No, I don't. She flung her arms up and headed to the camp. I gathered all her remaining strength, sprung up, and followed her. At first I considered grasping her arm, but then I realized it wouldn't be such a good idea after everything that had happened today. Hold on. I trudged inertly next to her. Let's talk this over. Is there anything to discuss? We silently walked alongside each other for some time. At least she walked slowly, so that I had no troubles keeping pace with her, and I was thankful for it. Hey, maybe there is something I can do to convince you not to tell anything to Olga. Not sure, but well, there is one thing. We came to the square. So what is it? Well, Stop running after Lena, for instance. For God's sake, what makes her think I do run after Lena? I started losing my temper. Why should you make up such nonsense? You started that quarrel in the forest. Because of you we had to go to that island, and here we go again. Enough is enough. I am not running after her. Alissa stood still. Bright moonshine lit up her face, showing evident signs of resentment and displeasure. Like I don't see how you look at her. How do I look at her? Like that. Like what? You know. She shifted her gaze, but remained standing still. Hey, stop seeing everyone through your twisted imagination. If you can't stop making up nonsense stories, just keep them to yourself. Do not make others suffer because of you and your stories. I don't care if you pick on me, but now you got Lena involved. I really lost my temper for good, but Alissa didn't answer. We sunk into unexpected silence that was only interrupted by Alyssa's sparse sobs. From bad to worse, now you are crying. Have you all gone mad here? I clasped my hands in despair. I could understand why Lena was crying, but seeing Alissa crying is something unthinkable to say the least. I can't even see her reasoning. Any other time I would definitely be shocked, but at that moment I was too tired for that. My head was absolutely void. To be precise, it was too heavy and full, so that even a single idea wouldn't have had a chance to dwell there. If I would compare my brain at its prime time to a broad highway full of speeders overtaking each other and causing chaotic giant crashes, then now it's nothing but a forgotten tiny footway in a distant, desolate forest, which is only used at times of absolute necessity. Alissa kept silent. At least she stopped crying. If you take it so seriously, go ahead and tell everything to Olga. Hope you'll get relieved. Okay, I won't do that, she said quietly and turned to me. Tears were all gone, but her face seemed to express absolute world sorrow. I'm just feeling hurt. What hurts you? I asked her tiredly. It's always like that. She draws all the attention and always puts me aside. I had difficulty understanding what she's talking about and decided to play along. Hoped she would finally leave me alone. That's not true. You do draw attention, and people do not overlook you. I do not. I raised my eyes and looked at her. Her face expression showed a mixture of amazement and tedious expectancy of something. See? So could you... All of a sudden her voice became so tender that I flinched in astonishment. Alyssa's face turned red and she hid her sight. So, do you really think I'm not worse than her? I wanted to say something like even better, but broke off. Yes, I do. It seems she didn't understand that I say it all absolutely and sincerely. All right, time to sleep. Alissa yelled cheerfully all at once. Now she was more like herself again. See you tomorrow. She waved her hand and ran away. I sighed in relief. Well, it was over for today. All my remaining energy was wasted on a spurt to Olga's cabin. There was no light. Trying not to awake the camp leader, I undressed quietly and lied down. It is still interesting. What did Alissa mean? And Lena? It became totally unclear what is going on with them and with me, as if we got sucked in some sort of vortex, which started to swirl with furious power. But what's going to happen next? And where will I be thrown then? ... And day 6? Day 6. Day 6, look at it. Uh-oh. What? What are you doing on my day 6 computer? That was weird. I woke up early. Olga was still asleep. I stretched and sat up in the bed. I felt surprisingly okay, although I should have slept through the day after what happened the night before. Quietly, not to wake up the camp leader, I took the bag with the washing up stuff and went outside. I forgot to look at the clock, but it seemed to be 6 or 7 in the morning. The camp was asleep. The grass was shaking and the night dew off. and a light fog hung above the ground, and the sun was just beginning to break through the treetops, not warm at all yet, like the fluorescent lamp in the house across from mine. I took a full breath of the tasty cold air, and thought that even a night owl like me can enjoy waking up this early sometimes. The streets of the camp were empty, of course. The water here has always been cold, but today it seemed like they got it from the Antarctic depths. Even my hands went numb from it. Finished with my hygiene, I decided to walk around the camp a bit. Olga is asleep, breakfast not soon, so there's nothing to do. I came to the square and looked at Genda. That guy doesn't care if it's day or night. He's alert. I smiled to my successful joke and headed to the boat station. As I walked, I hummed some song, absolutely sure I was the only one awake here. To my great surprise, I saw someone sitting at the pier, hanging her feet into the water. Alissa. I came closer and stopped, not sure what to say. Then she suddenly turned around and stared at me. Been standing here long? No. Why aren't you asleep? Why aren't you? She turned back and stared at the river again. Looks like I'm not the only one in a good mood today. At least she wasn't being sassy again. Can't sleep. I see. About yesterday. You get everything, right? What exactly? Oh gosh. My answer didn't seem to count. Alright, I did. I lied. Alright, good. She suddenly looked straight in my eyes and smiled. In that case, I have plans for you tonight. May I ask what they are? You don't need to know. Well, since I'm a part of them, you'll know when it's time. Can you give me a hint at least? Nope. She got up and walked towards me. A bit scared, I cleared the way. Don't do anything stupid, Alissa said, moving away from the boat station. I wonder what she meant. And what are those plans? I had no wish to become a part of some terrorist act against a monument or anything. Besides, I was still haunted by yesterday's talk with Lena on the island. She is still angry, probably. And I never managed to explain everything to her, although I don't even know what I would say if I had the chance. I felt guilty about everything that has happened, but I couldn't figure out what exactly I was guilty of. The camp was starting to wake up. Breakfast was at least an hour away, but I had no desire to go back to the camp leader's cabin, so I decided to wait by the canteen. At least I'd be the first one there for once. I sat on the steps and watched the sun rising. Sometimes it's great just to watch a new day come. I was overwhelmed with complete peace and tranquility. There were no thoughts to tear up my brain as they usually do. I simply bathed in warm rays of the heaven's star. In any other place and circumstances, I could probably even say I was happy. Good morning. You're early today. I looked up and saw Lena standing in front of me. She was smiling. You too. All the last night's events flashed before my eyes. Listen. If this is about yesterday, please don't. She interrupted me sharply. I don't know what came over me. It was all... just forget it. She stared at me. Lena seemed much more confident than usual. If only it was all that simple. There's nothing about this that is not simple. She sat down next to me. So close I felt a bit awkward, but made no move away from her. Sometimes we have some disputes with Alissa. Yeah, I realized. I see. But in this case, it happened because of me. Who knows? She answered, lost in thought. So that's why, I'm embarrassed. Perhaps I am really to blame. Or rather, I'm not trying to say that I am not to blame, but I was trying to explain myself like a 5th grader to a teacher. Okay, don't. As I said, nothing serious happened. If you think so. You should just think about how to act from now on. Not again. I covered my face with my hands, clearly showing that I have absolutely no idea what's going on here, and that everything, saying it mildly, is very unpleasant for me. Could you express yourself clearer? What for? She said evasively. Look, if I don't know what I did wrong, I can't do better. I can't decide on how to act, as you say. I think you'll understand. I would like to believe that as well, but... The canteen door suddenly flew open, and Olga came out. Sitting hungry this early, she said playfully. Good morning, Lena said merrily. She got up and headed inside. Shall we? Yeah, sure. We were not done talking, but pioneers appeared out of nowhere and flooded the place. By the time I got my breakfast, Lena was already sitting, surrounded by Miku, Xenia, Slavia. Sadly, there were no more free chairs at their table. Feeling down and not saying hi to anybody on purpose, I headed to my favorite place in the far corner of the canteen. I chewed oatmeal. It really was chewable today. I washed it down with some cold tea. Then I began to watch the others. All pioneers seemed to be here. Some were chatting, some, like Electronic and Shirk, were immersed in chewing, and some were gaping around, like me. I was just about to leave when Uliana jumped to my table, with her tray heaped with food. Bon appetit, she blurted. Stealing again? I asked, looking at her tray unambiguously. A growing organism requires a lot of calories. Yeah, you really should grow up a bit, I whispered. What? I think she didn't hear me. Nothing. I headed out. Leaving so soon. She yelled at my back, disheartened. I gave no answer. I should have taken the washing up stuff back in. I don't want to carry it around all day. Besides, what am I going to do today? Nothing at all came to mind. I was in such a mood that it seemed like someone was going to show up and invite me on a journey. I went out of the camp leader's house and stopped for a moment, then heard a voice calling out to me. Semyon. It was Slavia. Busy? No. Can you help me? Of course. I didn't want to look for answers on a wonderful day like this. A couple dozen hours wouldn't change my situation after all. What is it? You should stop by the Cybernetics Club. I don't know exactly. They'll tell you everything. The unfortunate inventors again. All right. Thank you. She gave me a nice smile and ran off. So, a journey to the enemy's lair lies ahead of me. To the lair of the evil Dr. Electronic and the diabolic Professor Shurik. And Mr. Hyde. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I pushed the door firmly and entered. Semyon, Electronic said, a bit ominously, glancing up from some contraption he had been poking with a screwdriver. Slavia sent me. I know. And what? The second door opened and Shurk came in. Semyon. He greeted me in the same tone Electronic had. Well, I was Semyon this morning. I joked. So what do you need from me? We have an important task for you. I am listening. The nurse came by yesterday. He stopped as if he wasn't going to continue. So? I asked carefully. So we have an important mission for you. I got it already. You are to deliver a package to her. Can't you do that yourselves? The infirmary is right there. I said skeptically. We can't. Electronic said, surprised. What a weird couple indeed. I see. Not another heavy bag, I hope. No, nothing like that. He smiled. All right, fine. I carefully agreed. Hold on. Shurk disappeared behind the door, and soon came back holding something wrapped in paper. Just be careful. All right. I took the package. If the pioneers weren't passing me the key from heaven, it still looked like they were at least giving me the Olympic fire. Can I go? Of course, Electronic said threateningly. Just be careful, Shurk pleaded. Outside I took a good look at the package. They never told me not to open it, although it would make sense to go further. I quickly walked to the square, and making sure nobody was following, slipped into the forest. I just stood there for a while, indecisive, looking at the package. I wonder, what's in it? Why is it so important for them? Why couldn't they take it themselves? I had a lot of questions. I opened the package and saw a bottle of Stolichnaya vodka. Well, so what? Pioneer's bringing a bottle of vodka to the nurse. Or rather, I'm doing it for them. Happens every day. I wrapped the bottle back and scratched my head. This isn't weird anymore. This is just stupid. So stupid I couldn't think of one intelligible theory. I stood there for a while longer and thought I shouldn't let the wonderful chance slip away. I quickly walked to the camp leader's cabin. Thank God Olga was not there. I sneaked inside and began rifling through the contents of the table drawer. Soon, the vodka was in a soda bottle, while its place was taken by some water for the plants. Happy with my clever plan, I went out and skipped along the way to the infirmary. Seriously, what is so wrong about that? They almost got me into a trap. If the camp leader had seen me, if anyone else had, we could have managed ourselves. So it was absolutely nothing. I gathered all my strength and knocked on the infirmary door. Hello, Pioneer. Hello, I have a package for you. A bottle for your armpit. I mean a package for your cabinet. Oh, so your fork. I began to talk nonsense. Ah, she said. Give it here. I handed her the package. The nurse stuffed it into the table drawer without looking. You didn't open it, did you? Of course not. I blurted out. Good boy. All right. So I'll be... Go, Pioneer. I closed the door behind me and let out a sigh. I could always pin this on the crazy inventors, and I could even use the most primitive ways to let off some steam. I came to the square. The clock showed noon. That meant dinner was coming. I sat on the bench with a solid intent not to move from here until the come and eat something bell sounds came. Pioneers were running by. They were smiling and shouting merrily. Yes, the day was definitely a wonderful one. I glanced over the square and saw Lena approaching. Relaxing? Something like that. She sat by me and looked at the sky. Nice day, huh? It is. It was a bit awkward. Lena seemed different. She was not embarrassed. Her face was not red. She was confident. So about that conversation. I told you everything already. Yeah, but just forget it. If you say so. We sat for a little longer in silence. I just can't, not like that. So what do you think about Alissa? She said, ignoring my question. What do I think about Alissa? I repeated, lost in thought. I don't really know. Why? You're just so worried about yesterday. Well, of course. But what does that have to do with it? There's a direct connection there. She laughed. Let's assume. So what? Well, and again I started thinking. Really, what do I think of her? Well, she can be arrogant sometimes. That's right. What else can I say? Now that I think of it, I don't know Alissa at all. The way she does annoy me sometimes. If you are wondering if I had any negative feelings about her, then no. I mean, she gets carried away, but everyone has their quirks. Lena stared at me. Really? Did I say something wrong? No, not really. She laughed out one more time, just before the lunch bell sound came. All right, see you. I didn't stop her, although I had a lot of questions left. But how do I ask them? And should I? I got up and slowly shuffled to the canteen. There were only a few spots left, so I had to sit with electronic and Shurik. Did you deliver it? Yeah, I answered lazily, poking my fork into the buckwheat porridge. No incidents? No incidents. What was in there anyway? You didn't open it, did you? He stared. No. Great. Finished with my meal, I went out. I was attacked by yawning. Taking a nap wouldn't be a bad idea. I headed to the camp leader's cabin. It seems that the summer sun was going to melt the whole planet, together with all its inhabitants. There was nowhere to hide, The sunlight seemed to reflect from every surface. Looking up, you risked going blind. Using my last bits of strength, I pulled the door handle, entered the room, and fell onto the bed. Of course, I wouldn't expect the cabin to be really chilly, but it was much better than outside. Blissful, I stretched on the bed and closed my eyes. Strangely, sleep left me. I was overwhelmed with thoughts teeming in my head. Here's another theory, a solution to the problem of how I got here. Here's what explains what's going on here. And here's the truth, form of all those, inhabiting this place. I remembered Lena saying, "What do you think about Alissa?" Seriously, what did I think of her? What can I think of a person I've known for several days? Can I just make conclusions based on a couple of words and deeds? Although her deeds, I laughed a bit. Any relevant organization would make the right conclusion based on the monument explosion. Still, though, I don't care. Maybe I really don't want to think anything of her. Can one be interested in a person who's not interesting? No, that's some sort of absurdity. A knock on the door. Come in. I was too lazy to get up, so I just sat up a little bit. The door opened and I saw Alissa. What a coincidence. She stopped, unsure, and stared at me for a couple of seconds. I guess you were looking for the camp leader. Why would she, though? No. What's up, then? I was looking for you. She sounded calm, but not aggressive at all. I caught myself, thinking I was not afraid of her, and had no concerns when she behaved like that, normally. For what? I want to make everything clear. She sat on the bed across from me. What exactly? I want to rule out any misunderstandings and understatements. Alright, I'm in. Have you spoken with Lena today? Yes. About what? Nothing really. You're lying. Alissa looked stiff and worried. She crossed her legs and was biting her lip. You do understand I'm always painted guilty when anything happens. Well, you are always guilty, I said thoughtlessly. There was a spark in her eyes, but she kept talking calmly. Maybe. But in this case, me and Lena, we're always like that. Even if she starts something, she's all innocent and I take all the guilt. So you're saying Lena? Actually, I don't really know what you're saying. You never understand anything, do you? She fumed. This is strange. I wouldn't call myself slow. So explain. You do know Lena likes you. She went red after those words. No, I answered truthfully. Well, now you do. Now I do. Uncomfortable silence overtook the room. I was processing. What the hell? I was processing what she said, and Alissa seemed unsure of how to continue the talk. Lena likes me. Could I ever have guessed? Unlikely. My intuition is usually good, but when it's about me and my feelings, it does not work at all. The weirdest thing was, I took the news with almost no worries. Right at the moment, I was listening to Alissa. I was focused only on her, and I could think about the rest later. And she thinks I'm going to steal you away from her. She thinks that all the time, understand? Even though it's always the other way around. Everyone looks at her because she's such an angel, and nobody pays attention to me. I'm just a shoulder to cry on. Alissa started screaming. Look, please don't get so upset. I don't think of you like that. Of course. I still had no idea what forced her to be so honest. I didn't know how to react. Moreover, I was not worried at all. It was like I was watching another episode of some TV series, and what was going on in the room was on the other side of the screen. I understand I was the reason for all of it, but today Lena said it was okay. That's just like her. You probably realize she's not as quiet as she wants to seem. I started to guess. If I can do anything, tell me. Alissa raised her eyes. Only then did I see she's been crying. Some sort of worry stirred inside me. I cannot take this conversation as an outsider anymore. Do you like Lena, or do you like me? I guess I should have expected a question like that, but I just wasn't ready. Just like that. Lena is nice, of course, but Alissa has her perks as well. Besides, the way she was at the monument, she could seriously compete with Lena. I don't really know you two at all. A question like that is difficult to answer directly. If I could say no, I would have, at that very moment. But I only had one chance for other answer as well. And I didn't know what to choose. You didn't want the situation to resolve itself. Of course, but... Why but again? Why again? Why? Look, we're going nowhere with this. Well, answer then. Her face fell back into the usual bold arrogance. I need time to think. Well, go ahead and think. Alissa stood up abruptly and headed out. Don't forget, we have plans for the night, she said on the threshold, smiling. The door closed behind her before I could say anything. Plans? What kind of plans? The talk with Alissa left a heavy impression on me. So, Lena likes me. On its own, news could shock and startle, and I, above that, was also forced to make a choice, a difficult one. To put it mildly, and any choice I make would be a mistake for someone. If only I could refuse both. Although, I didn't like the word refuse itself. If I could just answer her question with a no, it would be easier. But I knew it couldn't work like that. After all, after I talked to Alissa, I realized nothing would ever be the same again. It can't be, no matter what happens. And I'll have to make a decision. Since I rejected the no scenario, I needed to pick a positive solution. If, of course, I could live with it. But I was sure that of all the possible outcomes, there's one not just good for everyone, but also one that I would be striving for. And the choice seems obvious. Lena. She's pretty, she's cute, and she's kind. But then again, there was something about Alissa that attracted me. Suddenly the doors flew open, and Olga came in. Hanging around again, huh? Just resting. It's so hot out there. Go and help Slavia, she was asking. Where? I asked lazily. On the athletic field. Reluctantly, I got up and headed out. I should really air my brains anyway. There were a lot of people on the sports grounds. Some were playing football, others were playing badminton. Younger kids were just chasing each other. Semyon. Slavia walked up to me. You require my assistance. I asked, all official-like. Yes. Listen, did you take the infirmary key? No. Why me again anyway? Well, you were there a lot recently. I guess she's right. No. Maybe you know who did. No. Why? The nurse came up to me and asked for my key. You know that I have the key to every building in the camp. She said hers went missing. Could she have lost it? I shrugged. No. She says she couldn't have. I don't know, okay? Okay. She smiled and ran off. I headed to the camp leader's house determined to get some sleep after all. Olga wasn't there, thank God, so I fell on the bed and lost consciousness. ... I don't exactly remember what I dreamt of, but it left a heavy impression, as afternoon naps often do. I put some effort into getting off the bed and looked at the clock. It was just after 7. Nothing surprising if you think about it. I should have expected to sleep through the day. Although, as it turns out, I missed dinner as well. That thought made me uncomfortable, and I headed to the exit. I stopped on the threshold and thought of what to do next. I don't know how long I would be standing here. My head was still heavy after sleep, if someone hadn't cried out to me. Slavia was quickly walking to the cabin. Semyon, she started, breathless. Are you sure you don't have the infirmary key? Of course not. Why would I need it? Well, do you know who took them? No, I don't. Why? Well, Something has gone missing. What? Something important. Slavia hesitated. Some medications. So all this disturbance was started because of some medicine. Although, I pondered. I mean, I have the bottle in my cabin. Did she mean that? I tried to keep my face still as stone without giving myself away by anything. Okay. I don't know, I'm sorry. Okay, Slavia said in frustration. I looked at her and tried to figure out how bad the situation was for me and whether it was bad at all. On the one hand, vodka, I did. I don't understand. Steal it. Then again, she's saying it's gone, as in disappeared all by itself, with no external influence. Although it's highly unlikely that she would say the bottle of trophy vodka was stolen from the infirmary. So the way it was said was okay. The problem was different. I suddenly got really scared. What if they found out it was me? Even if it wasn't about the bottle, they'd still find out while looking for what was gone. Basically, I had to get a move on. And the main thing to do right now was to get rid of all the clues. I jumped into the cabin, shoved the bottle under my belt, and raced into the forest. Burying it somewhere was the best decision at the moment. I took my time looking for a spot, never noticing night falling down on a camp. A familiar voice surprised me. Hey. I struggled to turn back, making my face look as casual as possible. So, what's going on here? I am just having a walk. My voice sounded calm, but I already understood I wouldn't fool Alissa. Alone at night, in the woods. Well, yeah, what's wrong? Nothing at all. She stared at me. Okay, then I'll... Hold on. Am I forgetting something? Don't think so. We had an agreement. About the night. She thinks she's right. There was something like that. Yes, but you see... I see nothing. Let's go. She turned around and gestured me to follow. I thought there was no point to argue. Any word or deed could give me away. And then, sighing, I followed. It was a couple of minutes before we ended up in her cabin. While we were walking, I was busy picking the best time and place to get rid of the vodka, but Alissa was too close, so I didn't manage anything. Well, she stared at me. Well, what? I was so nervous my hair was all wet. The only thing on my mind at the moment was how to adjust the bottle so she wouldn't notice. What do you say? About what? Alissa pondered. Okay, I guess you're right. I brought you here, so I'm the one to decide. Okay? I agreed, unsure. Hold on a minute. She reached under the bed, and in a few seconds, the Stolichnaya bottle of vodka was out. I was shocked. Surprised, huh? Of course. Not by the vodka itself, though, but by the fact that it was the exact bottle I carried into the infirmary in the morning. The murky contents gave it away. So, Alissa looked at me with teasingly, What? Want to take a shot? I didn't even know what to say to that. What she had was just rotten water. The real vodka was in the bottle under my belt. Well, I kind of... Don't tell me you don't drink. Alissa pouted. I don't know. No, I just... Alright then, just a second. In just an instant, Alissa got 2 glasses and filled them with the brim. Let's do this, she said, giving me one of the glasses and down hers before I could answer. Pooh, she gasped. In a moment she realized, what on earth is that? She started spitting. They're calling this vodka. Despite my difficulty, I couldn't help laughing. What are you laughing at? Alissa shouted, red in the face. I asked, what's so funny? It is actually funny. So he is having fun. Drink yours. We'll see how you laugh then. I had no desire to try expired water, but just to avoid getting her suspicious, I asked. So, how does it taste? Like rotten water, Alissa said, upset. I was just going to relax a bit, having a cultured time out, and then a cultured time out, I repeated, as a new bout of laughter bent me in half. Hey, stop it. Alissa shouted and jumped at me. She was trying to hit me, or bite me or something. Maybe her plan was to crush me to death with her authority. I just grabbed her hands, and all she could do was gasp in powerless anger. All was going fine, but then Alyssa's legs slid and she began to fall. I let go of her hands, so she fell right on top of me, painfully headbutting me in the nose. I moaned in pain, threw her off, and turned to the side. What do we have here? When I realized she had taken the bottle, all the pain disappeared. Give it back. I tried to get the bottle back, but Alissa nimbly jumped off the bed and ran to the far corner of the room. Let's see, huh? She immediately took off the cap and made a big gulp. In a moment her face went red, and her eyes seemed to pop out of their sockets. What is this? She rasped, while coming back to her senses. That's the actual vodka. I seemed to have come to terms with my defeat. But where did you get it? You really thought you had stolen the right one from the infirmary? She nodded. Well, it was the right bottle, sure, but the contents... Man, you're clever. She was already starting to slur her words. Alissa came to the window, poured the water out of my glass, and replaced it with vodka. Come on. I don't want it. Really? Not the right time or place? Drink it. Or else I'll tell everyone you stole the bottle. But it was you. Well, you have the vodka. You can't prove that. You think I even have to? Alissa said maliciously. Unsure what to do, I stared at the glass. What's important is to get rid of the vodka. This was just one of the ways to do it. I breathed out abruptly and swallowed the contents of the glass in one quick motion. A short moment after, I regretted that. Got any food to chase this? Wait a second, Alissa said excitedly, and pulled a huge stick of ham out of her drawer. I tore it from her hands and bit off a big piece. Phew. So how was it? You're asking. It's not like I'm having a full-loaded booze every day, you know. I didn't really understand how I agreed to this so easily. Well, how is it? Like double bubble with vodka flavor. Alright, time for another round then. She opened the bottle again and poured us half a glass each. Don't you think that's enough? No way. Well, since we've already started. The alcohol was starting its work. Without a second thought, I gulped down the vodka. Alissa was definitely less experienced. She was having some trouble with the second glass. Ugh. How does it... She seemed really drunk already. You can't handle the heat. Get out of the kitchen, I said merrily, pouring myself some more. Somewhere deep inside I realized it was too much, but the gun was already loaded. How about me? Alissa was outraged. Haven't you had enough? No way. She grabbed the bottle from my hand and started to drink straight from the bottle. Hey, we have glasses, you know. Screw 'em. She shouted and roared in anger. Laughter. This is so cool, she said, catching her breath. Sure, not bad. I looked at the bottle. We'd gone through 2/3. I was definitely drunk by that point, and Alissa seemed even worse. Then again, there was barely anything left. I sighed and poured a glass for myself and half for Alissa. That's all. With these words, she chucked the bottle from the window. What if they find it? Oh, who cares? We both laughed. Okay then, for all ladies present. I grunted and drank. And for all the gentlemen. She followed my lead. I am getting dizzy. She undid a few buttons on her shirt. I carefully looked at her. Had she always been this beautiful? Or is everyone beautiful to me at this point? Whichever it was, I cannot force myself to look away. You're gonna stare a hole through me if you keep going like that. Alissa laughed. Sorry. Embarrassed, I stared at my feet. You can look if you're so interested. With some effort, I opened an eye and saw her continuing unbuttoning her shirt. No words could escape my mouth. Besides, who needs words at moments like this? What happened then was what was supposed to happen. At the time I wasn't able to think of what's right to do. And I didn't want to. It just felt good. ... A light bulb burned out. One of us turned off the lights, but the room went dark. I looked around her cabin and thought of something. Where's Juliana? What? You're afraid someone will come in and see us? She grinned warmly. Could happen. I asked her to spend the night at another girl's cabin. Wait, so you planned all this? Well, not something like this, of course. She looked at me intently, smiled, and closed her eyes. Yeah. I stared at the ceiling for a while longer, and soon heard quiet, deep breathing. Alissa was asleep. My head ached suddenly. The alcohol seemed to be wearing off. Best thing to do in this case is to follow her lead and get some sleep as well. Before I finished the thought, I was already fast asleep. Day 7. Just flying through the days now. Well, I think I'm gonna call that an episode right there. So, thanks for watching. We'll get another one here soon.